Having established natural rights that exist independently of government, Locke now addresses the fundamental question of political legitimacy. What gives anyone the right to rule over others? His answer is unequivocal: consent. Only consent of the governed creates legitimate political authority. This seems obvious to modern ears, but in Locke's time it was revolutionary and directly challenged dominant theories of political legitimacy. Traditional theories grounded authority in divine right. God appointed kings to rule, and resistance was rebellion against God's order. Alternative theories appealed to conquest or hereditary succession or natural hierarchy. Some were naturally suited to rule, others to obey. Hobbes had offered social contract theory, but his contract created absolute sovereignty beyond any further accountability. Locke systematically demolishes all non-consent-based theories of authority. Divine right? Show me the evidence of God's appointment. Conquest? Conquest might give power, but not right. It's simply force which creates no obligation. The conqueror might compel obedience through fear, but this is Hobbesian subjection, not legitimate authority. Hereditary succession? Parents have authority over young children only until they reach reason's age, and this authority doesn't transfer to political power. Adam's supposed dominion over his descendants, which Locke's first treatise had demolished, provides no foundation for monarchy. Only consent creates legitimate political obligation. But what kind of consent? Locke distinguishes between express consent and tacit consent. Express consent is explicit agreement to join the political community and accept its laws. Tacit consent is implied through actions, particularly owning property within a commonwealth's territory. By accepting the benefits of government protection, you implicitly consent to its authority. This creates problems Locke acknowledges but doesn't fully resolve. If mere residence implies consent, can anyone truly withhold consent? If you inherit property, did you consent to the government protecting it? Locke's answer, you can always leave and renounce property, seems more theoretical than practical. Most people are effectively born into political communities with no realistic option to refuse consent. But the revolutionary implication remains. Governments rule legitimately only with the consent of the governed. This means several things. First, governmental authority is conditional, not absolute. It exists only so long as it retains consent. Second, governmental power is limited to what people could rationally consent to. Third, governments that systematically violate the purposes for which they were created lose legitimacy and can be resisted. Locke's consent theory directly challenges Hobbes's social contract. For Hobbes, once you authorize the sovereign, you cannot withdraw authorization. The contract is irrevocable. For Locke, consent is ongoing and conditional. If government violates its trust, consent can be withdrawn. This opens theoretical space for legitimate revolution, which Hobbes explicitly denied. Moreover, what exactly are people consenting to when they create government? Hobbes argued they consent to absolute sovereignty with unlimited power. Locke argues they consent to limited government with specific purposes, protecting life, liberty, and property, establishing known laws, providing impartial judges, and enforcing justice. Anything beyond these purposes exceeds what people could rationally consent to. This creates a standard for evaluating governments. Do they serve the purposes for which they were created? Do they protect natural rights? Do they respect consent? If not, they've breached trust and become tyrannies, regardless of their legal form. The consent principle also has radical implications for who constitutes the people. Locke is ambiguous about this. Sometimes he seems to mean property-owning males, sometimes he gestures towards something more universal. But the principle itself, that legitimate authority requires consent,
contains revolutionary potential that would be developed by subsequent thinkers toward universal suffrage and democratic equality. For now, Locke has established that government must be based on consent, not force or tradition, and that consent is conditional on government serving its proper purposes. This sets up his theory of the social contract, which differs fundamentally from Hobbes's version.